Hi, everyone. I'm Sharon Tapper. I'm the Executive Director of the Music Managers Forum US, the MMF US. Great to see folks here today. If you are new to the MMF US, welcome. If you've participated before, welcome back. For the less familiar of those here, I'll just give you a quick background on who we are. Established in 1993, the MMF US is the leading trade association for artist managers and self-managed artists in the US. We endeavor to service the needs of this community in the form of webinars like today's, networking opportunities at our music summits and our community meetup happy hours that take place nationwide. We also work really hard on advocacy and are always trying to provide support at a legislative level for managers and on behalf of managers and the artists that they manage and the self-managed artists who are part of our community and, quite honestly, the whole music ecology at large. We are a registered 501c6 non-for-profit organization. We rely on the support of our members and the generosity of our sponsors to provide our programming. If you aren't already a member, please consider joining. You can do that on our website and just click the join button on the membership page. If you want to stay informed of our events as they are announced, simply sign on for our newsletter and our website. That's mmfus.com. Follow us on our social media channels, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and that's where, once edited, this webinar will appear, so you can rewatch it at your leisure. The MMF is also part of a larger organization. We're part of the IMMF, which is the International Music Managers Forum. They represent music management forums in more than 60 countries around the world, in Europe, Latin America, Asia, Australia, New Zealand, Africa. It's a great organization, and we interact with those other MMFs as much as we can. It enables us to connect artist managers across business opportunities globally, and it's a wonderful dynamic that I really enjoy when we're able to do those events. Now, the reason we're all here, please join me in welcoming Mandolin's Vice President of Marketing, Evelyn Thompson, and Artist Manager, Mike Kopp, who are here today to discuss new tactics to engage fans in the future of artists.
All right, so we're super excited to be here today. It's a hot topic on everyone's mind. How do I harness the power of my data to drive fan growth, drive revenue opportunity? And love to give you a little bit of background on ourselves, but before I talk about myself, star of the hour is actually Mike. So Mike, can you give everyone a little bit on your background?
Sure. Welcome, everybody. I'm dialing in from rainy Nashville, Tennessee. Sure. My background, I'll just give a quick summary. I've only been in the music industry for about 10 years. Prior to that, for about 30 plus years, I was in the political arena, working in the federal, state, and local government political arenas. Involved in about 250 political campaigns, including presidential, congressional, legislative, local referendums, you name it. I pivoted into music because a good friend of mine, an artist named Ben Folds, was looking for a manager. He and I had been talking and been friends for a number of years. He knew my background and thought that it might serve some of the things that he was interested in doing to bring someone like me with my experience into his world. So that's how I got into music. And that's the quick summary.
We'll definitely dig into more of that history a little bit later, because I have questions and I'm sure I'm not the only one. Okay. In terms of my background, hi, my name is Evelyn Thompson, also Hickman. I recently got married. And as Sharon mentioned, I'm the VP of Marketing here at Mandolin. Alongside the rest of our team, I spend my time focused day in and day out on dreaming up all the ways we can remove obstacles between artists and their fans. I'm so excited to have the opportunity to share why we're so fired up about activating on first-party data, especially because my 10-year career, 10-year plus really, in entertainment has pretty much been focused on helping musicians, sports teams, and arts organizations build authentic fan relationships at scale through data, both on the consultative side, when I led the B2B marketing team at Ticketmaster, but also from the brand perspective when I worked on the consumer team at Feld Entertainment. So without much further ado, we'll jump into how to activate your data to drive your fan growth. But first, we need to talk about the state of the state. What do TikTok's distribution tool, Universal Music Group's sample marketplace, and Snoop Dogg's virtual NFT collectibles all have in common? On the surface, not much, but just beneath, these developments are just 3 more reflections of the newest iteration of the music business, the platform era. Building a profitable career for an artist used to be a little more straightforward, still very difficult, but more straightforward. Show talent and promise, get commitment from an agent, manager, and label, land a hit on the radio, tour on the strength of your catalog, rinse and repeat. But now, with the introduction of TikTok and the latest developments in streaming, the formula for artist longevity has changed pretty dramatically. And while the revenue generated by the industry continues to grow year over year, COVID notwithstanding, artists are still struggling to capture fair value for their art. In fact, a 2017 Citigroup study found that of the $43 billion generated by the music industry in the US, artists were only capturing 12% of that gross. That's really rough. And driven by a desire to increase this percentage, artists have turned to content creation and distribution platforms to extend their reach and money-making capabilities. However, multi-content platform success hasn't been found in streaming, at least not yet, but rather through the monetization of content surrounding music. Think live streaming on platforms like Mandolin or Twitch, offering exclusive content subscriptions through Patreon or Substack, or in Snoop's case, virtual marijuana. The platform era itself is primed to better serve both artists and fan needs than traditional stakeholders, with implications across the value chain. Now, what does that mean? Artist managers have been answering this challenge head on, but the road's been difficult. They're launching incredible content ads that are generating additional income on a plethora of new platforms, but doing so is creating a fragmented view of their fan base, even as it accelerates revenue opportunity. Many of these new revenue streams hinge on the depth of the artist-fan relationship, which means separating out the high contributing super fans from the low contributing passive listeners. Something incredibly hard to do when you consider the amount of intermediaries sitting in between the artists and their fans today. In particular, your super fans and Gen Z demand active, participatory experiences with music, which again is tough to do in a repeatable, scalable way on many different platforms. And while it is super tough, the need to diversify is not hypothetical. We lived that reality during COVID. And in fact, Mandolin's formation as a live streaming company was catalyzed by a very real need for artists to generate income immediately in the face of major touring revenue loss as venues closed their doors during the pandemic. In some ways, this new counterculture is actually a return to form. Streaming's been blurring the divide between passive audiences, previously monetized by radio, and engaged superfans, previously monetized by retail, making it even harder to pinpoint who your most valuable fans are. And while past transformations in the music industry have usually been around format shifts, this time it's all about who owns and cultivates the relationship with the fan, from both a data and platform perspective. And while the shift was accelerated by the pandemic, it's been brewing for a while. Gradual changes in the way artists approach their careers, how listeners consume music, and how tech platforms have evolved in the last decade has ushered in an urgent need to connect with fans both more authentically and in real time, something that's downright impossible to do without a sophisticated data strategy. Now, data is a huge deal because it's the key to building deeper, more personalized relationships. To understand how data activates the super in each of your fans, one really only needs to look at leading brands like Spotify and Amazon, who do this very well. Spotify uses past streams to generate personalized playlists that are truly unique to each listener, while Amazon utilizes purchase history to build precise, personalized product suggestions. Thanks to these and other brands who have honed their data collection and segmentation methods to serve up curated experiences, fans now expect personalized, always-on experiences, purchasing tickets, merch, and other content anytime, anywhere, and tailored to their precise taste. In fact, according to Salesforce's latest State of the Connected Customer report, 76% of these fans expect the brands they love to understand their wants and needs and then deliver experiences that meet their expectations. And brands like Spotify and Amazon can deliver these experiences consistently because they've heavily invested in their data collection efforts. Problem is, they're not actively sharing that data with you. And in Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, and all the other advertising platforms that also don't share personally identifiable data, like PII, think emails, postal codes, and phone numbers, and you've got a veritable headache on your hands. One that we've already established can't be avoided. So what kind of data should you be looking for? Let's first start with all the types that there are. Zero-party data is data proactively shared by your fan. It's the email they enter in your email subscription box, the phone number they submit to enter your contest, the preference for red t-shirts when you survey them on which item you should include for your next merch drop. First-party data is collected via transactions with your brand and other partners. A common example includes the address you receive when a fan buys a ticket to your show. It's also the super fan signal you receive when they subscribe to your Patreon. Second-party data is data you buy or source from a third party. Let's say you email the fan club list of one artist you manage about a new artist you've signed in hopes that they'll become fans of this artist as well. That's technically second-party data use, which can put you in a tricky spot if you haven't properly gotten consent from that audience to email them about new artists on your roster. Consent-driven advertising has become a hot topic legally, with many governmental bodies implementing laws around data usage and tracking. More on that in a sec. Third-party data is the data you collect from advertising networks like Facebook Business Manager, Google Ad Networks, and others. Third-party data is typically reported in aggregate, and you usually can't download this data for use outside of the platform you're working on. However, zero, first, and even some second-party data typically provides PII. Again, emails, addresses, phone numbers, any kind of data you need to truly grow your fan base. They can even include psychographic data that paints a fuller picture of your fan base's hobbies, interests, and spending habits. For years, third-party data has been the mainstay of digital marketing. It offers more reach, but little access to the PII you need to build better fan experiences. However, to win in the platform era, you've got to have a rich data set. Better customer experiences demand better data. Artists have to understand individuals and audience patterns to really nail each fan's journey to super fandom. That includes knowing things like the channels they love, how often they stream, what merch they buy, and when they buy it. And in pretty much every case, zero and first-party data from real customers is going to be the easiest to obtain, as well as the most effective to use. Because zero and first-party data is defined, collected, and owned by the brand itself, data tends to be more accurate and timely than that from external sources, and it's useful for both short-term action as well as long-term benchmarking. It also saves you tons in advertising costs. BCG's Global Digital Marketing Maturity Survey found that the companies that link their first-party data sources to advertising engines, as opposed to relying on third-party aggregate data, generate double the revenue from a single marketing piece, improving cost efficiency by 1.5. Those savings can literally add up to thousands of dollars a year. Now, on the legislation front, you've likely already heard of the EU's General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR. You've also probably remembered the big dust-up between Apple and Facebook when iOS 14 allowed users to opt out of passive ad tracking through clear prompts, a move made in response to the passing of the California Consumer Privacy Act, or CCPA. And if even neither of those ring a bell, you've no doubt been asked to accept cookies on every single website you've ever loaded this year. This barrage of emails and pop-up modals are the result of several data privacy and compliance initiatives driven by consumer demand for consent-driven brand relationships and enacted by many local, state, national, and even international governments. DMA, GDPR, CCPA, CASL, CAN-SPAM, a veritable acronym soup that basically boils down to one thing. Relying on third parties to connect to your fan base is getting harder and more expensive every day. With fans clamoring for personalized connection, governments advocating for consent-driven data usage, and audiences sprouting up across a fractured landscape of many platforms, you just cannot develop the career of the modern artist without a proactive first-party data strategy. So, where to start? If you've ever engaged with merch, ticketing, venue, fan club, or festival partners, I've got good news for you. You've got a whole universe of data at your fingertips. And if you're one of the lucky artists utilizing our Fan Navigator and fan page offerings, you can expect even more data to roll in automatically via the list of growing integrations on the right, which we'll touch on in a sec. Our first order of business is to help you not only pinpoint all the sources of your data, but get it unified, which allows you to build a more comprehensive view of each fan and gives you a holistic view of your entire audience, all easily accessible from one place. The data types that you should be thinking about if you're going the DIY route is ticketing buyers by way of the venues you've toured, any merch store partners or fulfillment partners who have handled merch on your behalf in the past, QR code redemptions from on-site activations or shows, email lists from CRM platforms like Klaviyo, MailChimp, Community, Tailored Mail, fan club lists from platforms like Patreon and Substack, data append services from behavioral data aggregators if you've worked with them in the past. They can include like Experian, Axiom, Full Contact, and any entries to past contests and giveaways. Essentially any file that has an email address, pull it. Pinpointing your data sources and unifying them is just the start. And I know this can all seem really daunting. As I mentioned before, Mandolin's always been focused on helping artists build personalized, consent-driven relationships with their fans, starting with live streaming, expanding to additional digital experiences, and now realized fully through our Fan Navigator and fan page offerings. Our team blends deep technological and music industry experience, and our mission is to make the process of owning your data strategy while simultaneously realizing new revenue opportunities dead simple. So for Fan Navigator, it was launched in July of this year, and with over 100 artists already on the platform, Ben Folds included, we are billing it as an all-in-one fan engagement platform that helps you unify your data, build holistic fan profiles, and provides tailored recommendations on how to activate your fans to increase fandom and artist revenue, both on and offline. And so from there, I'm just gonna stop sharing my screen for just a second because we're gonna hop right into a demo. So what we're looking at now is the overview tab of Fan Navigator. As I mentioned before, sort of your central console in terms of managing all of your incoming fan data, understanding the health of your fan database, and taking the next action you need to really build a personalized relationship on a fan-to-fan basis. As you can see up here at the top, the Fan Navigator platform is made up of 6 primary features. We're obviously on the overview tab here. You can pinpoint the sources of your data and a breakdown of what's giving you the most insight on your fans. We've got a fandom growth chart here, which we'll go into in a second, and some playbooks, which we'll also touch on in a minute. But beyond the overview tab, we also have audiences, analytics, goals, playbooks, and insights. But before we start with anything, as I mentioned, your first step is unifying all of your data, getting all of your data in. So I want to show you guys the integration screen really quick. So we'll click this gear here. You can set user roles and permissions. I realize there's some blurred out data. I'm masking anyone's PII because we don't want to give away addresses and phone numbers of fans. But you can see our list of integrations here on the integrations tab. As you can see, when you connect, you just click a simple button, you usually plug in your credentials, it'll ask you to log in, and that data begins to flow in. We have a full list of merchant marketing integrations for you to connect purchase history with your fan engagement data. On the merch side, we've got Shopify, Square, Stripe, Music Today, Ambient Inks, as well as a generic merch integration. So even if you're not working with any of those providers, there is an email integration that you can use to automatically get your merch data in despite that. On the marketing automation side of things, we have integrations with MailChimp, Klaviyo, and HubSpot. And we're adding even more merch point of sale systems and CRM integrations. So if there's any platforms that you guys can think of, just shoot me a note. Now, let's say you've got data that isn't included on our integration list. We do have the capability to accept CSV files. So you're going to use this files tab on the right. Literally any kind of data can come in. We'll simply ask you to type it first to make it easier for filtering later on in Audience Builder, which we'll talk on in a second. But regardless of how the data gets in, once you've unified those disparate sources, the platform starts making sense of all of it for you automatically, stitching together fan profiles across platforms to create a holistic picture of each fan. And I'll show you what that looks like. So when you go over to the Audiences tab, we'll touch on these life cycles here in a second, but just for the purposes of looking at a fan profile, click into your super fan segment, click on this fan, and here you can see we've aggregated what audiences we've found them in within your system, your fan navigator. But we'll also break down what PII we have, email, phone, and address, where we've gotten their data from. So how many of these data sources that you've integrated or upload are they appearing in? And that's a proxy for how engaged they are. And then their purchase and preference histories. So if they've attended any of your previous events, if they've bought any merch, if they've expressed an interest in genres based on Spotify listening history, or even what DSP channels they're listening on. So once we go through all of the individual evaluations, building that comprehensive fan profile, the system gets to work by basically comparing behavior across your entire fan base to determine who's your top fans and who needs to be nurtured. So to help you prioritize and target your marketing efforts, Mandolin's AI fandom lifecycle score automatically segments those fans into 4 buckets: super fans, potential fans, growing fans, and idle fans. We do call these fan lifecycle stages. They're assigned a stage based on the recency and frequency of their engagement and purchase history, all relative to the rest of your fan base. So super fans have spent the most money on you, engaged with your content the most frequently, and the most recently in comparison to the rest of the fans in your database. They're usually the ones you need to reward and keep around. Growing fans haven't spent as much money on you yet, but are recently becoming more frequently engaged. So it may be worth testing out different discounts or promotions to get them over the hill. Potential fans have engaged with you in the past and are worth keeping around, but they're starting to churn or slip away from an engagement perspective. So you'll want to nurture these ones back into super fandom with content or unique offers. And idle fans have the lowest level of engagement and purchase history of them all. It's worth learning more about them and including them in your awareness campaigns if you're looking to grow your more loyal fan base. And while we automatically create these fan segments for you, the real magic starts when you build out custom audiences tailored to your marketing strategy, which can be exported for use in any of your cross-channel promotions, and coming soon, directly sync to some of your activation channels. Let's say we want to offer our most engaged fans, super fans, early access to our new tours VIP ticket bundle, but you only have a limited number and you want to make sure the offer gets to fans who are most likely to buy. Now, just to save us time, I've pre-built this audience. So let's find it. And I'll open up the edit screen so we can walk through. So in Audience Builder, You have a couple of predefined filters that you can use to slice and dice your audience. In this case, I've pulled all fans who are opted into marketing. You always want to make sure you do this as a first step. But from there, I've pulled in all of my super fans who've at least spent $100 with my brand at some point in the past. Now, according to the system, I have about 879 total fans who have done this. And when you go to the view audience screen, you can get a breakdown of not only who those fans are, but again, clicking on their fan profiles, behavioral traits, data sources, any kind of information you want to see on the individual level. This information updates daily. So you can also apply suppression filter, like let's say you upload a list of folks who actually bought, and track how many of my fans went on to actually do the action that I asked them to do. But to create your audience in Facebook Ad Manager or to build your email list, for now, you'll simply click this export button, you'll get a CSV and it'll download to the system. That's just one example of Audience Builder, but you can pretty much filter your fan base and create custom audiences using any data you pull into Fan Navigator to serve your campaign strategy. As I mentioned on the overview screen, as you continue to grow your fan base through downloads and CSV uploads, you can use, again, this graph on the left to keep track of how many data points make up your fan universe, as well as the breakdown of where those data points come from. You'll also be able to track the growth of your fan segments over time using the bar chart on the right. If you hover, you can see that we're breaking it down by those fandom life cycles that we just went over. And that view is usually month over month or week over week. In addition to these top line metrics, we've got over 70 data points available on the Analytics tab to help you truly understand the health of your fan base. So we'll head over there to check it out now. When you land on the Analytics tab, I know it looks like a lot, but our intention is to give you the full spread of all data points available in the platform that we've been able to pull or aggregate for your audience, or excuse me, for your artist. That said, you can filter to see what data you care about most. So if you click this little caret here, we've got some groupings. I won't go through all of these in detail, but suffice to say we have information on show attendance, radio plays, psychographic information, merch orders. If you've done an event on Mandolin, we pull in all of our live streaming data, sources that we've seen the fans from. But a lot of times people are looking at how am I trending today? What engagement am I trending right now? So let's look at socials. Now this is a demo account for Elvis Presley. So, follow the thread with me. But let's say Elvis's team is super interested in driving his TikTok engagement rate. Unfortunately, when his artist manager logs in, he can see, oh, we're down. That's not great. And he wants to create a goal to increase TikTok engagement and rally his team around it. He can do that using the goals tab. And so coming over to goals, he adds his goal. He'll choose his metric, which, here we go, TikTok engagement rate. And let's say he wants to increase it to 5%. Might be a little unrealistic, but we'll see. He'll set his rate, his target value when he wants to achieve it. So let's say same time next year, we'll create the goal. And then the goal will be added to his goals dashboard. So every morning when he's drinking his coffee, he can log in, see where we're at on TikTok engagement rate, and have a more nuanced conversation with his promotional partners who are presenting tour dates, and his marketing manager who's managing his social channels. Now, let's say you're an artist manager who, isn't super in love with the idea of getting super detailed in the numbers, or may not even have the time to do so. We've created a few playbooks centered around tentpole activities that takes the guesswork out of how to successfully support your team, especially your marketing team, in driving success around a tentpole activity. So We'll jump into the Selling More live stream tickets playbook just for a quick view. So what you can see here on the left rail is we've broken down all of the phases of promotion for this tentpole activity. And then in the middle is all the pertinent information you need to activate and really excel at running in this phase of your campaign. And then on the right is all of the metrics that contribute to the success of this campaign. What you see across the top is an associated goal. It's sort of like your leading indicator of how you're doing. So in this case, we're looking at for this live stream that we're running, how many tickets have I sold? Again, this goal is attached automatically because we just know if it's a live stream, top line goal is we got to sell tickets. And you'll see some of that in all of our other playbooks as well. Now, let's take that thread even further. You're an artist manager who literally doesn't have time to even read playbooks, or you're so busy in your day-to-day, you're just looking for opportunities to engage with your fans, and you just don't have time to play around in the data. This feature, Insights, is actually launching in our Winter 23 release, so soon, but it's not live yet, so you guys are getting a sneak peek, where essentially, you are, you're getting automatic insights surfaced to you through the power of your own data, which identifies fan engagement opportunities automatically. Each card surfaces a meaningful trend we detect with machine learning, giving you context into why we think it matters and what we think you should do next. Our starting roster of insight cards are going to focus on social growth, streaming, and merch buying trends. But in total, that's Fan Navigator. It's truly the only place to manage everything about your fan universe, from individual fan profiles to AI-driven segments and tailored marketing playbooks. It just makes it much easier to build your fandom, drive revenue, and truly own your success. Now, Fan Navigator is going to be your home for where you aggregate all of your data, but let's say you have massive social following and very little known fan data. We've launched Fan Pages, which is essentially a link in bio tool, but on steroids. It's eye-catching, you can build engaging experiences, it's super brandable, it's very easy to build, very straightforward, I'll show you in a second. And it also has the ability to easily collect fan data that's fed directly into Fan Navigator, and you can use it to filter audience builder and just really connect better with your fans. It's also available in Fan Navigator, but you don't have to pay for it, it's free. Now, when we click on this page, you're seeing the one fan page that's live in the demo. You can create multiple. We have several artists who have one that's a link in bio, one that is campaign or tour specific or contest specific. So there's no limit, at least as of now, to how many fan pages you can have. But we'll go ahead and pop into this one that already exists so I can show you the build functionality. Like I said, it's pretty straightforward. There's a list of blocks that you can use to embed content. As you move through the tool, you can drag and drop modules, so you're not stuck having to reorder things manually and painfully. And as you make those changes, it appears in real time on the builder in either a mobile or desktop preview, whichever one you prefer. In terms of the governing appearance, there's the appearance tab here. You can set the theme to dark or light. That refers to the background on some of these bars and buttons. You can choose from a predetermined list of fonts that match your brand, as well as having total control over your CTA colors, your background image, and your background type. One thing to point out in the builder phase, if you can see all fan page analytics in terms of who's followed, visited, and clicked within Fan Navigator's analytics tab, but you can also view them here when you're building. Again, this is a demo account, so we don't have a ton of engagement data, but you'll see it here at the bottom on clicks. So it's kind of hard to talk about this esoterically. So not to put you on the spot, Mike, but I'm going to bring up Ben's fan page. Mike built an excellent fan page for Ben. Very simple. It's got social followings at the top, a link to the merch store and upcoming tour dates, and a spotlight on Ben's charity in his hometown, Keys for Kids, as well as some new music. Before we open into Q&A with Mike, I just want to, sorry about my cat, guys. I just want to touch really quickly on some early successes we've seen. Lainey Wilson is a rising country star out of Nashville. She's managed through the Red Light Nashville office, and she's had a killer year. She took away an award from the CMAs, and she debuted her acting career on Yellowstone. But she's still fairly early in the artist development life cycle. So she was hyper focused on growing her fan universe and using some of these activities as an accelerant for that. So she quickly signed on, launched her fan page and her fan Navigator offering in September. And she chose to reward current fans through either contesting giveaways or invites to exclusive experiences like her album release listening party or VIP parties. And in doing so, she was able to de-anonymize 43.6% of her passive social following into known fans and Fan Navigator, meaning emails. So we've seen incredible success on the power of Fan Page and Fan Navigator in terms of coming to know your fans. And then even Ben, has used fan pages and streaming to increase his nonprofit donations, which is obviously, as you can hear from Mike's intro, causes near and dear to his heart. He launched his fan page and Fan Navigator in April of this year, actually one of our first pilot customers, so thank you, Mike. There was a plethora of events that we promoted, but key among them were benefit concerts with the NSL, and again, the Keys for Kids initiative, Ben's charity back home, to get music instruments in the hands of underprivileged kids. And in doing so, they were able to gross at least 14.2K in donations, not insignificant. And they'll be launching a CTA capture on their fan page soon to start accelerating their fan growth. So I don't want to speak for Mike. He's a much better storyteller than I, so I'll go ahead and jump into the Q&A. But you teased this a little bit, and now we need to know. You've had an amazing career over politics and arts, and I mean, personally and selfishly, I'd love to figure out, like, how did you meet Ben? How did you come to manage him?
Sure. First of all, thanks for the presentation. You know, it's funny. We feel like I've been part of the Mandolin family, learning all about the different iterations of Fan Navigator. And every time I hear you give a presentation, I learn something new. So I'm gonna keep paying attention. I'm still learning. Yeah, the quick history of how we connected. So again, I mentioned I was in politics. I started my political career. My first campaign was a presidential campaign in 1980. It got me involved in DC. I went and served for probably a little over a decade as Al Gore's communications director when he was in the House and the Senate. Went through a presidential campaign, actually 2 with him, and some congressional races. Pivoted out of that, got involved in a public affairs firm that did political campaigns as well as corporate campaigns where you're trying to get communities behind a corporate cause. And so that continued for many, many years. Just prior to meeting Ben, kind of fast forwarding from 1980, in 2003, I launched the first digital marketing firm in Nashville because I had some interest in coming out of my political experience and what digital was going to mean to politics. And so when I met Ben, I was a couple of years into my digital marketing firm, and he at the time had through some mutual friends learned about what I was doing and was interested in where his career might be going with respect to, you know, the digital space. He had experimented with some stuff at the time on MySpace. He had launched a YouTube channel, but still felt like he wasn't maximizing the power of digital. And so because that was what I was doing in the corporate and political world, we started having regular meetings whenever he'd come off the road. And we had, aside from a building a friendship, we also had a lot of deep dive conversations into all that stuff about digital. So I joined him in 2012. And the reason why I think he was interested in particular and having me come on board, even though I didn't know anything about managing a music artist, there obviously, listening to your presentation again, there's so many similarities in politics and what's needing to happen in music, because in politics, it's all about, you either have a candidate or a cause. You've got to, that candidate or cause has to be authentic in how it presents itself. Same in music, you got to be authentic with your art. Then you have to figure out where your tribe is. Then you've got to build that tribe, make sure that tribe knows that, you find them and they know what you're doing. And then the key part, and where it really overlaps with what you're doing and what we've been doing together with Mandolin, is really figuring out how to engage with your tribe. In the case of politics, it's identifying not just who votes, but who are your likely voters in any kind of scenario. And again, in parallel with music, it's not just finding people who might like your music, but people who are engaging with your music. And so we have been, for the last few years, sort of struggling with, we, like everyone else in music, we've launched Instagram pages and Facebook pages and Twitter accounts and bands in town. And, anytime someone came along with another platform, digital platform, we'd jump into it and try to figure out how to connect the fans. But the missing piece that I was able to find in politics that I couldn't find in music was aggregating those, all those fans that are scattered across, figuring out how to aggregate all the different platforms in a way that identified those, as you called them, super fans. Again, the parallel in politics is the likely voters, the people who are going to be there when you need them. And not only identifying who the super fans are, but then figuring out how to engage them. Where do they engage? What kind of hot buttons they have for engagement. And that's why, frankly, Ben and I were so interested when you guys launched the beta for Fan Navigator. That's why we wanted to be involved in it. And it's been for me as a data junkie coming out of the political world, it's been manna. We're still learning how to figure out where the fans are and engage them. But this tool was so needed in music, again, because it's something that has been in politics for years. I just couldn't figure out how to translate it over to this world.
Totally. It's pretty fair to say you've realized the value of investing in a first-party data strategy probably a lot earlier than some of your contemporaries. So I gotta ask if you could recommend, because this can be overwhelming for a lot of people starting out. What are the first 3 steps that an artist manager should think about when kickstarting their data strategy?
Well, I think it's, the goal for us has always been, the gold currency for us has always been emails. And so I think while it's important for whether you're representing or you are a new artist, or you're, in our case, I was stepping into an artist, Ben Folds' world, where he already had an established career. The key is to, make sure you're everywhere you think you need to be platform-wise, but then figure out how do you glean from those platforms the real data, the real information that gets you to the point, in our case, gets to the point where I can actually have a more direct relationship and not just rely on the platform. And that's where you guys come in and helping us figure out where, not only where our fans are social media wise, but what kind of strategies can we implement to get them to share their direct contact with us so that we can have a direct contact with them and not just rely on the platform. So I think step 1 is be everywhere you think you need to be based on the kind of art that you're putting out there, the genre of music, whatever. Of course, always, I guess probably even before that, is be authentic about what you're putting out there. I have surprisingly, even though I've been in the business for 10 years, I've had a few younger artists and newer than me artist managers reach out and talk about to share with me kind of what they're doing. And one of the things that I see more often than not, and unfortunately, is a new artist trying to develop their art based on what they think is a smart marketing strategy. And I think that's a mistake. I think just maybe this is old school, but I think you've got to find out what your authentic art is. That's what you put forward. And then you put it anywhere you think it needs to be. And in doing so, your tribe will find you. So I think that's step one. And then step two, as I mentioned, is then to figure out what tools are out there to be able to capture from all those different platforms you're on the kind of information you need to have the direct relationship. And again, that's why I go back to this fan navigator. And I know I sound like a commercial for Mandolin, but I mean, they don't pay me to say this. we pay them, right? But it really is true. I mean, you guys have this fan navigator toolbox is exactly what any artist or artist manager needs right now. It's tools that you can use to find out how to create a direct relationship with your fans. That's where ultimately we need to go to really get some true engagement.
Awesome. Well, we definitely appreciate the kind words, and we're glad that we've been able to help. I'm so looking forward to making even more progress with your guidance. So I know we're getting a little close to time. So Sharon, should we open it up to Q&A?
Does an artist need to be at a certain level before they should engage with Mandolin? Is this something where you can be as somebody who's just starting out on their journey?
Yeah.
What's the entrance here?
That's a great question. And the answer is a bit nuanced. If you're a newer artist and you're focusing on, growing your career, clearing that first 10K followership on whatever channel you choose, Fan Navigator might be a bit premature, but Fan Pages is completely free and a really great fan data capture tool that then allows you to follow up with known fans and get them to commit to your brand or your band more effectively than just trying to be on all channels all at once. So I realize that's a nuanced answer, but
no, that's fine.
Especially when you're starting out, focus on growing your following, harness that data. You can DIY the engagement efforts up into a certain point, and when it becomes too much, Fan Navigator is that unifying solution.
That's wonderful. And we're primarily a US entity. We have people tuning in and looking at our webinars and reading our information, and they're around the world. Do you function around the world, or is this a US centered?
Yeah, our vision is to go global. Fan Navigator has been live in market for about 6 months, and the majority of our pilot customers and our first 100 customers have been focused in North America. So as it stands in terms of core features and functionality, they're best suited for clients in North America. But absolutely the vision is to expand globally as we onboard clients who could really benefit from those features.
If I may interject, I mean, we're about to, we're going to use Fan Navigator with the new album release. And aside from a strong fan base in North America, our other two strong territories are the UK and Australia. And we're already starting to see the benefits of Fan Navigator identifying who those audiences are.
That's fantastic to know. And are there different tiers within Mandolin that the people, I mean, this is obviously a business. How does that work? So somebody comes in, they start at a certain level, or they want to use, is it a la carte? They can choose what tools they want to use, or how does this work?
Sure. So there are 3 tiers. Well, I should actually back up and say there's a free trial. So regardless of which tier you're interested in trying, you can sign up, 60-day free trial, get a feel for how everything works, integrate some of your data, see if it works out for you. But from there are 3 tiers. There's obviously our basic tier. That's for that, early in the artist life cycle artist who's just, crested their 10K Spotify followership or their 10K Instagram followership. They've built out their fan page. They want to start cultivating that fan base, understanding that fan base. From there, we've got Pro. These are sort of like your middle class artists who are savvy enough to DIY everything, but also have a significant enough fan base where they need help and they need a command center to basically drive their fan engagement. And then we have a premium edition. This is really geared toward those like multi-million-dollar platinum selling artists or managing firms and labels that are managing multiple artists, multiple fan bases across multiple different kinds of segments. So pricing is really based on how many contacts you have in your fan universe. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them individually if you want to shoot me an email afterward.
Right.
That's sort of the download on the additions there.
And I hear you rave reviews from also organizations. I mean, I voted, did their whole they were when we did their webinar, they were singing your praises, and that was a huge undertaking. I know you work with songwriters in North America,
Yes.
Sona, it goes, obviously we're here to talk about artists, and that's amazing. That's our core reason to be here, but it's great to know that you move within the organizations, within the music industry as well.
Yeah, the admiration is entirely much. Emily White and her predominantly female-led team of
it's an all-women C-suite, baby.
Right. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Em and her team. They've done some pretty incredible things during a hard election year and hard time to put on a music festival, and the way that they've driven voter turnout has been nothing short of incredible, and we're just excited to be on the ride with them. So the admiration is entirely mutual.
That's very cool. People, how can they contact you?
Sure. Just shoot me an email. Pretty simple. Evelyn@mandolin.com.
Wonderful. Very cool. Well, I'm gonna just say thank you so much for being here and sharing your wealth of knowledge and experience. We couldn't be more grateful to you both for being here today and taking time out of your busy schedules to do that. And thank you to the folks attending. Thanks for being here. If you're seeing this on YouTube, you're welcome. Because this really does go beyond just this moment in time. This is a wonderful company that you're building, and I can only imagine where else you're going to be growing out here. So we're just excited to work with you, and anybody here who wants to know more, please go and contact Evelyn. And in the meantime, please remember to like and subscribe to our social media platforms so we can keep doing our work. And if you want to rewatch any or part of today's webinar, go to the YouTube channel. There's a myriad of subjects there, and that's where they're posted. This is our last webinar of the year, so we are busy planning all of our in-person and virtual events for 2023. So I want to thank everybody for being here. Enjoy your holidays, and we look forward to seeing everybody in the new year.